Good morning, Laguna Woods. I'm glad you tuned in. We're in our top 10 most popular verses of 2018, according to YouVersion of the Bible app. And I hope you've taken the time to put that free app on your phone so you always have the Bible with you. So they know what people were searching for. And this is number 4. Jeff Feld is with us again today and all week. And Jeff, I got to tell you, I'm surprised this one's as low as number 4.
I know.
I got to say,
Yeah.
this is one of the most quoted verses. Well, I guess it still is. Number 4 is pretty high.
Yeah.
But go ahead and tell, and Laguna Woods, if you haven't memorized this one, you need to today. Go ahead.
All right. And we're in Romans 8:28. We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose.
I love this verse because there's a lot of bad things that happen in the world. And I haven't seen the news today, but I know there's bad things.
Yeah.
It's every day. But this verse brings good, or promises good, out of bad things. But
yes.
What are some of your thoughts?
So I was looking at this, and one of the things I did was actually read some of the verses prior to this, and Paul was writing this to a church in Rome that he had helped plant, and he was I think it was his third missionary journey when he was writing this back to that church he started a while ago. But I was looking at in verse 18, it says, "I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us." And so what I love about that is Paul is actually helping give perspective that, like you said, some of the bad things we may be experiencing now are kind of not even worth comparing to this wonderful future that God has for us.
So that point alone is kind of encouraging us to keep our perspective.
Yes.
That the vast majority of time, we're in heaven, not on earth.
Yes.
So any little bumps in the road here, although here they don't seem like bumps, they seem like, big potholes.
Yeah. And also not to dwell on that, and not to dwell, because, for example, I mean, in any day, there's a mixture of good and bad, right? And so I think as humans, we have a tendency to kind of focus on the negative and not the positive. So even in our current day is maybe just look for those positive things that happen and be encouraged by that. Obviously we have that ultimate hope in the future that God has, and we're assured by that. And as a matter of fact, the words that Paul used is he says, "we know," and that saying was used so much in the book of Romans, and it really means that we know because God's Spirit makes it real. We have that assurance.
Yes. I was thinking about this. That's always been the case. Now, this promise wasn't actually written out until, about 2,000 years ago.
Right.
But throughout history, good has come out of bad. I want us to think back for a moment to the very beginning, which is Adam and Eve. Okay? They lived in like the perfect spot. What could go wrong? And then they sinned. And what happens to them after they sin? They get kicked out of the garden. So that seems bad. But the reality is that in the Garden of Eden was this other tree called the tree of life. And had they have eaten that, evidently it was a great tree because you'd have lived forever, but you'd have had to live in sin. So God didn't, he had, excuse me, he wanted to bring good out of even theirs. And so he removes them from that so that there could be another way. And that, of course, is through faith. And now we get to live in heaven where there's no sin. Yeah. I don't know. I just thought
No, I think it's a great point because even when bad things do happen, God's ultimate plan for good can be made part of that. I think
that's what I think.
We had talked yesterday. We had spoken about kind of the honor of doing memorials and celebrations of life, and I've seen so often that in the season of illness or somebody passing, it's amazing how God will use that time to reconcile relationships. And so there's family members that may not have spoken for years, will come together because of that, and now that relationship is renewed. So there's a great, I'm getting chills because it happened to my family. That's a great example of seeing good out of bad.
That exact thing happened to me 2 weeks ago.
Mm,
And this lady who had been asking for prayer for her family for at least a year that I know of, as she was laying in bed in the bedroom, uh, getting ready, and that was, she went to heaven the next day. Her whole family, who hadn't talked to each other in, I think, 5 years or more, was sitting in the living room talking. So here she is. She's excited and happy that her family's getting together. And you've
yeah,
seen that too.
absolutely, absolutely. Matter of fact,
I
yeah,
really thought that
yeah.
was, well, okay.
Yeah. No, that's it's a wonderful thing, and that's just a great. I love the fact that God lets us see things like that and helps us to understand that's part of this bigger plan. That perspective that you mentioned that He helps us understand.
Well,
Yeah.
have you seen in your own life
Oh my
good
goodness.
come out of
Oh my goodness. I didn't get
what
to. Yeah.
appears to be
Yeah.
evil? I don't
Well,
know.
I was thinking in the same thing. There was a situation in my family where my father had passed away. It's been, gosh, 4 years ago now, and he and my brother, my younger brother, had not talked for a while. I won't go into the details about what happened, but they hadn't, and neither one of them was reaching out. But my father became very ill, and he was in. We didn't know at that time, but he was in his last weeks of life, that my younger brother had come to the hospital. And when my dad kind of woke up and he saw my brother, just the tears of joy in both of them was just amazing. And it was wonderful. And yeah, so that's something that I think that my younger brother will never forget. And I think he's a changed person in a very good way now because of that.
I just want to challenge all our viewers this morning to think in their own life where there are bad things that happen. I mean, and they're really too numerous to even mention, but I mean, when a child is taken from us or natural disasters hit, you think, well, how could anything good come out of that? But if you look at your own life and things that have happened, and they're bad things, this isn't saying all things are good. It says God works through all those things to bring good out of the bad.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
sin in this world, and that sin has created bad things. And but when we look back, sometimes if it just since I somehow thought of that about a child dying, uh, only the Lord knows. They get to go to heaven and live out of pain, out of
Mm.
harm's way,
Yeah,
really.
yeah,
Maybe it was the Lord sparing them from that. We feel the loss, of course.
yeah.
And I think if we look at numerous things in life like that,
And also that there's comfort in realizing that we don't necessarily understand it all
we
on this
don't.
side, and a lot of times there's a number of things in my life where some things have happened, and I don't know if I'll really understand until I'm in heaven with Jesus, and then I'll have understanding. But just have to trust that He's got it. And it's not I'm not in control, and I'm grateful I'm not, by the way, and just to trust that ultimate plan of good. One thing I wanted to bring up,
Go
and
ahead,
you'd mentioned
quickly.
that I think we talked about yesterday's scripture, was that Paul says, "For those who have been called
Mm,
according to His purpose," and actually say, "For those who love Him and called," and because this verse, I think, as you mentioned before, is for those that are following Christ,
yes.
those that love Christ. It's not necessarily that if somebody is not, that this doesn't necessarily apply to them.
So, folks, we need to make sure that you need to make sure that you are following, love the Lord. And if you need help with that, just write us. We'd love to help you find more truth about the Lord. Well, Jeff, we have to take a break. We'll be back tomorrow with verse number 3. See you then, everyone.